Imagine living in a nation no larger than New Jersey or Wales, and right on your border, 50,000 armed militants stand poised, supported by 150,000 rockets aimed directly at your destruction. What would you do? Perhaps you would turn to the ancient Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu, who taught that all warfare is rooted in deception through espionage. Tempt the enemy with bait to draw him in. On the 17th of September 2024, an enemy fell right into that trap. A breathtaking covert strike unfolded in Lebanon, striking at the heart of thousands of members from the Iranian-backed militant faction known as Hezbollah. But who could execute such a daring, unmatched operation, and for what purpose? It was a bright afternoon in Lebanon, a nation positioned directly on Israel's northern frontier. At precisely 3:30 p.m., an extraordinary assault from an unseen adversary shook the country to its core. More than 3,000 Hezbollah operatives received a sudden message on their pagers. The instant those messages were opened, concealed plastic explosives hidden inside the devices detonated, causing the pagers to burst apart violently. This became the shocking tale of Mossad's audacious operation. Back in 2022, Hezbollah had acquired nearly 5,000 of these pagers, intending to use them as secure tools for internal communication. Yet the devices were not what they appeared to be. They had been specially engineered with tiny embedded charges that would explode upon activation by the encrypted messages. But why had these deadly booby-trapped pagers been planted inside Hezbollah? And what exactly is Hezbollah? To answer that, we must turn back the clock to their beginnings. The group arose just 3 years after Iran's Islamic Revolution in 1979. Its name, Hezbollah, translates to the Party of God. Iran built it initially to reinforce its grip on power and later to export its influence across Lebanon and Syria. With a manifesto calling for the removal of Western influence, the destruction of Israel, and unwavering loyalty to Tehran, the group quickly spread its militant ideology. And since the very day after Hamas launched its infamous assault on Israel on October 7, 2023, Hezbollah has been firing powerful salvos of rockets into Israel. Then came the infamous day in September. In just a single hour, over 3,000 of those Hezbollah pagers erupted in the hands of their users across Lebanon. According to Lebanon's health ministry, the toll was devastating. 12 people killed and 2,323 injured, including 2 children among the dead. Many of the wounded suffered catastrophic injuries, losing eyes, arms, or both. The following day, another coordinated wave swept across the country, this time striking Hezbollah's walkie-talkies. That second strike left another 27 dead and more than 600 wounded. Hezbollah was shaken to its foundations, its underground communications shattered, its operatives gripped by terror and confusion. But the question lingered: who could possibly infiltrate Hezbollah so deeply, plant these devices, and execute a mission of such vast secrecy and success? The answer: Israel's Mossad. Universally regarded as one of the most formidable intelligence agencies on the planet, Mossad is known for its secretive operations, its bold missions, and its uncanny effectiveness across the globe, all while striving to keep civilian casualties as low as possible. The agency's very first motto was taken from the Book of Proverbs in the Bible: "By way of deception, you shall wage war." Similarly, Britain's MI6 adopted the Latin creed Semper Occultus, meaning always secret. From its earliest days, Mossad played a critical role in Israel's survival, focusing on counter-terrorism, intelligence collection, and international covert missions. Its reputation has been cemented as a daring organization willing to take any risk necessary to safeguard Israel. As the British Special Forces famously say, "Who dares, wins." In fact, only 3 days prior to the pager explosions, barely anyone within Israel's own leadership even knew the operation existed. So why detonate the devices when they did? Perhaps Hezbollah was on the verge of uncovering the deception, forcing a now or never decision. Or maybe it was meant as retaliation against Hezbollah's daily rocket attacks across Israel's northern border, which had already displaced some 80,000 Israeli citizens who fled south to avoid the bombardments. Following the pager strike, Israel's military maneuvers forced nearly 1 million Lebanese civilians to move northward. It could also be that Israel's aim was to cripple Hezbollah's leadership, creating a deterrent against a full-scale war that would inflict untold losses on both sides. This, however, reignites an age-old debate within Mossad itself. Do targeted assassinations truly achieve deterrence? Yet, if nothing is done, terrorists will continue to strike and kill. In any war, civilian deaths are tragically difficult to avoid. In fact, Mossad has aborted more than half of its planned missions just moments before launch out of concern for civilian casualties. This demonstrates a rare moral restraint in warfare and highlights a unique ingenuity, not only dedicated to protecting Israeli citizens, but also minimizing harm to innocents across the line. Military analysts long believed that dismantling Hezbollah would require a catastrophic war with thousands of casualties on both sides. But the pager attack rewrote the playbook entirely. Can the careful targeting of leaders truly alter the course of history? Consider this. During World War II, what if Winston Churchill had been assassinated? Or Adolf Hitler, who survived 42 attempts on his life, some missing him by mere seconds? History has often shifted not only through assassinations, but also through intelligence failures, like America's inability to foresee the attacks on Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Regardless, the strike against Hezbollah decimated their networks and broke their morale. To understand Mossad's roots, we must go back to the turbulent years following World War II and the establishment of a Jewish homeland. Surrounded by 5 hostile nations, the fledgling state urgently needed a cunning intelligence service, modeled partly on the CIA and Britain's MI6, tasked with operating well beyond Israel's borders. By 1960, Mossad had already proven its global reach. In a meticulously planned operation, it tracked down Adolf Eichmann, one of the high-ranking Nazis responsible for orchestrating the Holocaust. Living quietly in Argentina under the alias Ricardo Clement, Eichmann was captured, smuggled to Israel, tried, convicted, and ultimately executed in 1962. His ashes were scattered at sea, a powerful symbol of justice for the victims of the Holocaust. Just a few years later came one of the strangest chapters in Mossad history, working with Hitler's own favorite SS commando, Otto Skorzeny. By 1963, Mossad had uncovered that Egypt was employing ex-Nazi scientists to build ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads to annihilate Israel. Infiltrating such a network seemed impossible. The scientists were heavily protected by both Egyptians and former Nazis. Mossad needed an inside man, a Trojan horse. Skorzeny, then living comfortably in Spain, was approached. The idea of Jews partnering with a Nazi horrified many Mossad veterans, especially Holocaust survivors. Yet the mission's stakes, stopping Egypt from acquiring the bomb, outweighed all objections. Skorzeny gained the trust of the German scientists, mapped their routines, and provided Mossad with crucial intelligence. Soon after, 6 of the scientists were assassinated, the rest fled, and Egypt abandoned its nuclear program. Among Mossad's most celebrated operations came in 1976, Operation Entebbe. An Air France plane with many Israelis and Jews on board was hijacked by Palestinian militants and German radicals. Diverted to Uganda's Entebbe airport, the non-Jewish passengers were released while the Jewish hostages remained captive. Mossad devised a daring rescue. Under cover of darkness, Israeli commandos landed at the airport, driving off the plane in a car identical to the Ugandan president's limousine. The deception allowed them to storm the terminal, kill the hijackers, and rescue the hostages. It was a resounding success, cementing Mossad's global reputation for protecting Jewish lives anywhere. In 1978, Mossad assassinated Wadi Haddad, the mastermind of the Entebbe hijacking, by lacing his toothpaste with poison. Over time, his health deteriorated until he died, betrayed by his closest aide, who was secretly a Mossad double agent. Yet Mossad has not been immune to failure. In 1973, its intelligence miscalculated disastrously, failing to detect that Egypt and Syria were preparing for war. Israel was nearly overwhelmed, a catastrophic blunder blamed on arrogance and faulty intelligence. In the modern era, Iran-backed groups like Hezbollah remain prime targets for Mossad's advanced technology. In 2020, the agency famously eliminated Iran's top nuclear scientist with a remotely operated, AI-assisted robotic weapon, controlled by satellite. The strike delayed Tehran's nuclear program for years, but the bigger question remains. Mossad can slow a nation's march toward the bomb, but can it truly stop it altogether? The employment of cutting-edge technology to mislead and strike enemies is hardly a novel idea. In fact, the concept of booby-trapping Hezbollah's communication devices was first conceived as early as 2015. To sabotage such a vast number of pagers and launch an assault on thousands of Hezbollah commanders simultaneously required numerous intricate steps. Did these involve collaboration with the manufacturers, tampering with the supply chain, or cleverly gaining Hezbollah's trust so that they never imagined tiny explosives had been carefully placed inside each device, and then designing a remote-controlled system capable of detonating those explosives at will? According to Reuters, in 2022, Hezbollah imported 5,000 of these compromised pagers. The Taiwanese firm Gold Apollo later revealed that they were actually produced by BAC Consulting in Budapest, the capital of Hungary. Gold Apollo admitted it had allowed its brand name to be used on the devices. The CEO of BAC Consulting, however, denied any knowledge of wrongdoing. Hungary shifted the blame toward Bulgaria, which in turn began probing a company called Nort Global. Nort Global then pointed to a Norwegian firm named Rinsen Jose. Yet, as with all covert intelligence operations, the full details remain cloaked in mystery. But how did this operation truly unfold? An Arabic notification suddenly appeared on the pagers reading, "You have received an encrypted message." To access it, the recipient needed to use both hands. The moment the action was completed, the concealed plastic explosives ignited, causing the devices to detonate. It feels like something lifted straight out of a James Bond screenplay, yet it's really just a timeless tactic, striking an enemy from within. The classic example, the Greeks and the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is immortalized in Homer's epic, the Odyssey. The Greeks had laid siege to the walled city of Troy for years without success. Then Odysseus devised a brilliant deception: construct a massive wooden horse, hollow out its interior, and hide 30 Greek warriors inside. Presenting it as a sacred offering to Athena and a symbol of surrender, the Greeks abandoned the horse outside Troy and staged a retreat. Believing victory was theirs, the Trojans consulted their gods, who advised them to bring the horse into the city as a trophy. That night, under the cover of darkness, the hidden Greek soldiers crept out, unbarred the gates, and the Greek army flooded in. Troy was reduced to ruins. The pager explosions were not Mossad's first foray into a Trojan horse-style tactic. Back in 2010, the Stuxnet cyber attack, widely attributed to the US and Israel, targeted Iran's nuclear program. Stuxnet was a highly advanced computer worm secretly introduced into Iran's nuclear infrastructure. It sabotaged centrifuges vital for uranium enrichment, causing them to fail and thereby crippling Iran's nuclear ambitions. A modern Trojan horse in digital form. Of course, Mossad is not the only player in this field. State-sponsored attacks extend far beyond Israel. Under President Obama, the U.S. authorized targeted drone strikes that killed an estimated 3,797 individuals, among them 324 civilians. Meanwhile, Russia has carried out notorious assassinations on foreign soil using methods even a Bond villain might envy. In London, Georgy Markov was assassinated by a poison-tipped pellet fired from an umbrella. Alexander Litvinenko was fatally poisoned after consuming tea laced with radioactive polonium. Later, 2 Russian agents, posing as tourists, visited Salisbury Cathedral while carrying perfume bottles laced with a lethal nerve agent. They applied it to the front door of Sergei Skripal's home. Skripal and his daughter Yulia survived, but a local woman, Dawn Sturgis, tragically died after discovering the discarded perfume bottle in a park and spraying herself with it. Mossad itself, despite its formidable reputation, has endured failures as well as victories. During the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, 11 Israeli athletes were massacred in a terrorist attack. Mossad failed to prevent the slaughter, and when Germany refused to suspend the Games, Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir launched Operation Wrath of God. Mossad was tasked with tracking down and eliminating every terrorist involved. Her decision echoed the words of famed Israeli General Moshe Dayan. Millions of Jews gaze at us from the dust of history. We cannot stop workers from being killed in orchards or families murdered in their sleep, but we can make their killers pay a heavy price in blood. Over the following years, Mossad pursued and executed those responsible, using various Trojan horse-style ruses. Their campaign was meant not only to exact justice, but also to send a chilling message. Mossad can strike anywhere, at any time. Yet, in the midst of this success came a disastrous blunder. In Sweden, they mistakenly killed a Moroccan man working as a swimming pool cleaner, an innocent victim wrongly identified. The operation turned into an international scandal, tarnishing Mossad's image. Unlike the precision of the pager attack, here it was arrogance, impatience, and inadequate verification that led to failure. The recent sabotage of Hezbollah's devices, merging old espionage tradecraft with the ancient Trojan horse principle, validates the famous words of Sun Tzu: all warfare is based on deception. It prompts the question, what would nations the size of New Jersey or Wales do if confronted with similar dangers on their borders? Mossad's operations remain deeply polarizing. They've produced spectacular triumphs but also humiliating errors. Still, Israel knows one thing with certainty: to lose a single war would mean its very existence is wiped away. The pager attacks serve as a reminder that espionage, sabotage, and covert intelligence are as old as human conflict itself. And the timeless question lingers: do clandestine missions help avert catastrophic wars and mass bloodshed, or do they only ignite further cycles of violence? That ultimately is for history, and for us, to decide.